Hey guys, it's Christine, also known as IvyWinter. Thank you for joining me for another Disney video. Today's video is a request that came in actually quite a long time ago, and I've just kind of gotten around to thinking about it and putting my list together and putting it out there. Somebody wrote in a long time ago and asked me to talk about my biggest Disney regrets, whether that's something I did, whether it's something my parents did, I was a kid, with like decision-wise with the trips that we took, and it was an interesting thing to go back and think on, because at first I was like, I don't know, I haven't done anything that I regret, but that is not true. That is not true at all. Even as what I would consider myself a seasoned vet of Disney, I have done things that I've regretted, and I've done some of them even more recently, when you would think I would have learned or I would know. So some of these regrets are really specific to specific trips. Some of these are like a little bit more blanket overall regrets, but I'm just gonna dive right into them. So the first one, which I actually teased on the TTA podcast recently, was going to Disney sick. Now, I am not a proponent of going to Disney sick, especially in this day and age. Don't do it at all. Don't care if you just think it's the sniffles and a cold. Don't do it. This was, oh gosh, I don't know, 2009, I want to say, 2008 even, somewhere around then. I was a cast member at the World of Disney in Fifth Avenue. I went to Disney with my boyfriend at the time, and a few of our friends, two of our friends. I was going to get on the plane, and I was panicking because my ex was actually really late. He was in a cab trying to get to the airport, and he was stuck in traffic, and he was coming all the way from the Bronx all the way to JFK. And I was like, oh my God, he's gonna miss this plane. And, the me of 2008, 2009 was very anxiety ridden. And so things like that would super stress me out. And I thought that I was just having like an asthma / panic attack about him missing the flight. He made it. My two friends were there. We were like, well, I guess the three of us are gonna get on the flight. Worst case scenario, he figures it out, he gets on the next one, but he just made it. And I was like, okay, it's fine. I'm breathing, right? We're good. And then the first night we went to Fantasmic, and I remember sitting in the crowd, and I was like, I can't breathe. And again, I thought, is this anxiety? Is this asthma? Because I do have like more exercise-induced asthma, and if it's very, very humid out, it'll bother me. Usually nothing. I've never had to like go to the hospital. I've had rescue inhalers, but I rarely need them. I just thought maybe that's what it is. It's the humidity. But I started to freak out a bit because I was like in this huge crowd with Fantasmic. We go back to the hotel, we get some rest. I wake up this next morning, and I'm like, I'm getting sick. It's not that bad at this point, but I also feel like, I spent all this money. I'm here now. Like, how old was I? 20, 21, something like that. And so of course I'm like, I need to, experience this trip. I spent the money. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I was a dumb 20-year-old. Well, I ran around for like the short 3-day trip or whatever that we had, pushed myself to the absolute limit, came home, had a fever that spiked immediately, and then had to call out of work because I was delirious for the next few days. So do not go to Disney sick. Do not push yourself at Disney sick. What I should have done, I couldn't have prevented myself getting there because I didn't know that I was sick. But what I should have done is said, hey guys, see you later. I'm gonna go rest in the hotel room for a bit. I'm gonna make sure I'm hydrated. I'm gonna make sure I'm eating. I'm gonna just, suck it up and miss a few hours in the parks. But because I was young and I was like brash and I thought I could just do whatever, I didn't do that. And I'm pretty sure that made my illness way, way worse. And it really sucks to come back after taking vacation from your job to then call them and say, hey, I also need to take off work now. I actually tried to get myself to work, and because it was retail, it was high pressure. They wanted you there, and I remember my manager took one look at me said, turn around, go upstairs, get changed, go back home. She was like, you were not working today. It was bad, guys. It was really, really bad. My next Disney regret is not going solo sooner. I always talk about my story. I won't go totally into it, but the short version is I accidentally went solo the first time. I say accidentally because the only reason I did it and entertained it was because I had a ticket that was super, super cheap. JetBlue was doing a leap year sale. It was like $29 to go to Orlando. And I was like, I have no one to go with me. I'm just gonna do this. And I'm so glad that that happened, but I kind of wish that I had thought to and had the, just the motivation and not so much the fear to go solo sooner, because it was such a blast. And I wish now that I could have had even more experiences going solo. Obviously I can still have many more, even though people were commenting on my last video and they were like, well, it's gonna be a while before you have a solo trip now that you're gonna have a baby. And my answer to that is, I will make it work, friends. Not that I even think that it will happen yearly. You know, might be a solo trip every couple of years or something like that. But I'll find a way. Life finds a way. It's a different franchise and theme park. Okay, I'm done. The next regret that I have is staying off property. I've only done it really a couple of times. So my family did it when I was younger. We did one of those, like, well, at the time, downtown Disney area resorts. And then I did it again with some friends when I was graduating high school. And the family had rented a villa that was like a good 15-20 minute drive. Actually, I'm a liar. There was 3 times, because there was an awful trip, not that the trip was awful, but an awful decision on our trip for Rob and I and one of his friends to crash at his parents' house in Tampa for the first so many days of our trip. We did stay at Pop for like 2 or 3 nights later, but we were trying to save money. We were college kids, and we literally did like an hour-and-a-half drive back and forth every day. That was awful. Don't do that. But in general, I'm not really a fan of staying off property. Now, there are people here who are gonna be like, whoa, all we do is stay off property and it's not worth it to stay on Disney property, and here's all the reasons why, and I respect that. Like, this is a me thing. This is not me saying that off property is just bad across the board, but as one, someone who doesn't drive, because, you know, I was a city girl, I didn't get a license, and 2, as somebody who likes to just be in the bubble, because I'm already spending that money to be at Disney, I so much more prefer to be on property. I like the free transportation, I like the atmosphere, I like the guest service that I know I'm gonna get, and it's just familiar and easy, and I just prefer it. But again, I'm not trying to like poo-poo anyone else who stays off property. Just for me, all of those experiences were kind of a regret. They were not my ideal Disney trips, but definitely do not stay in Tampa and try to drive to Disney every day. You will hate it. My next regret is going in the summer. I haven't done this in quite a while, because the last time I went in the summer, I wanted to die. You know, it gets hot in the Northeast. It does. We have times where we hit record highs and it feels like 102 or whatever, and we get those humid streaks and you're like, wow, this is awful. Imagine that, but every single day. So instead of here where it's like, oh, we're having a heat wave, but at least it's only gonna last like 4 or 5 days, it's just like Florida. It's just like every day is a heat wave. So it is unbearable, is uncomfortable. It's a little bit more dangerous. Like, you gotta make sure that you're hydrated, that you're resting. Like, these are the times where I've seen people literally faint in line because they're not taking care of themselves. You feel sticky, you feel gross, you feel like you need 3 showers a day. You feel like you can't move at a normal pace because you're just sweating and slow, and it's like the air is just punching you in the face. It is honestly, like, it's funny I say that because right now I keep thinking, well, like, darn, I think the soonest I could probably get to Disney in 2021 with everything that's going on, and with hopefully, you know, vaccines and stuff would be summer. So I'm almost kind of entertaining it, but there's a part of me that's like, Christine, you know how bad it was when you went in like July, and do you really want to do that again? And look, that weather can still consistently, you know, go on to like October. I remember the time that I took Peter, we had some brutal days, and it was like the first week of October. So, you know, just because it's not summer doesn't mean that you can get away from that, but like summer is definitely, it's like a definite that you're going to just suffer. And then my last regret comes from a more recent trip, I would say in the past like year or so, but it has happened a few times, and man, I've sworn it off. It's just thinking that early morning flights are a good idea, and I'm talking like 6 a.m., 7 a.m. flights. I used to do this to be like, well, I want a full day. And my flight from New York to Florida, or Jersey to Florida, as it were, is like 2 hours. So I would go, man, if I just get on a 7 a.m. and I land at 9 a.m., 9:15, and then by the time I get to the hotel, and then I have like 3/4 of a day at the park. There was a trip recently, I've always kind of felt like crap doing this, but there was a trip recently where I couldn't sleep well before the night of my flight, which happens for a lot of people. It's like, for me, it's a mix of like excitement / travel anxiety. And so I think I got like 3 hours of sleep and then had to be at the airport like 5:30 in the morning. And I went to Epcot to meet up with Rob and Kat and Kat's parents, and had lunch, said hello, and said, okay, I need to go back to the hotel room. I felt sick. I was of such a lack of sleep. I felt awful, and I knew that I wasn't going to be able to keep going for the rest of the day if I didn't get sleep. So I ended up just eating lunch, going all the way back to the hotel, taking like a 2-hour nap, and then meeting them in the Magic Kingdom for a couple of hours, and then going back to sleep. And so that day that I thought I was going to have didn't even happen the way that I thought that it would. And what I've learned to do instead, and again, I think this is being older and like now just having a more steady job with more disposable income. So I will put that out there first. Not everyone can do this, but I have been spending that little bit more money. If I really, really want that full day, I have been spending that little bit more money to add an extra night before and take a late flight. So I'll take a flight in, have dinner somewhere, maybe Disney Springs or at the parks or whatever, get a full night's sleep, and then have my full day the next day. But even if I can't do that, even if I can't budget that in, I have learned to just let it go on my travel day and be okay. Even if the flight is like 10 a.m. instead of 7 a.m. makes a huge difference. I've done this to myself multiple times, but that one trip when I felt just sick and awful from not sleeping was like the deal breaker. That was the moment when I was like, Christine, you can't do this anymore. Like, you can't do this again. You're not young. You're not able to survive on a few hours of sleep. Like, just don't. So those are my biggest Disney regrets. Like I said, some are more specific to like really specific trips. Some are a little bit broader. I would love to know in the comments below, what is your biggest Disney regret? Is it a decision you made? Is it following along with the decision your parents or your friends or someone else you were with made? Let me know in the comments below. I always find that kind of stuff so interesting. If you like this video, then like it. If you like me, you should subscribe. I make videos every single week or so. I appreciate those of you who have still been supportive and still sticking around. If you want to be a part of the larger community, we have a really great Discord community. Discord's like this really cool chat app, tool, whatever you want to call it. And there's such a great tight-knit community there. So if you would like to meet those wonderful people and chat with me, and sometimes Rob hops in, and even on occasion, sometimes Peter, rarely, but it happens. You can join the Discord below. If you want to check out the TTA podcast, which is the podcast that I do with Rob from Midway to Main Street, you can also check out the link below. That's it, you guys. I hope you guys are having a great December. I know it's a weird year, but I hope that there's some holiday joy happening in your lives right now. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a great rest of the day.